Hello, Tiger fans, and thanks for joining us for a new week of the Perry Thomas Show here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton with you. We'll visit with the head coach of the Fighting Tigers, and then later on in the broadcast, we'll talk to recruiting coordinator and defensive backs coach Will Snyder as well. As the head coach steps in, we recap the weekend's ball game, a trip to Pikeville. Coach, obviously not the result that you guys wanted, 41-34, the final score. And this is one of those, ever so often we see, we do a recap, whether we're on the winning end or the losing end. One of those games, the box score really doesn't tell the tale. Yeah. Most of the categories you guys were victorious in terms of time of possession, total yards, all those things. But just enough little things go right for Pikeville Thursday night to get that win.
Yeah, I mean, I think, credit goes to Pikeville. I thought our guys played much better than we did the first game. Thought we made drastic improvement across the board, but obviously not enough to be able to get the victory. And, you can't go in and make some of the mistakes that we're still making against the teams in the conference. I mean, it's just a tough league, and Pikeville made some big plays on us. That was the big difference in the game.
We'll take a look at the box score for some of those watching on WLCU TV, 41-34. Again, the final score. Hunter Brown, coach, a tremendous ball game for that young man, 36 of 52, 373 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions. Of course, the high volume of throws may kind of curve that number a bit, add to that just a bit. Tyus Alcorn, Jacob Lamb, 13 catches combined, 183 yards, 4 touchdowns for those guys. And then for Pikeville, Sonny Warren led the way, 18 of 26, 363 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. All in all, offensively, just looking at the numbers, a very productive game for the Tigers.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I thought we moved the ball well, made some big plays when we needed to. And I thought we played a really good offensive game, although there were times when our organization was still lacking. We still got to get better in our processes. And we left a couple of touchdowns out there, a couple of miscommunications and a couple of drop touchdown passes that once again could be the difference in the game. Defensively, same thing. I thought we played good defense. The running back had some pretty good yards, but one of those was like a 60-yard run. Other than that, we held them to just a couple of yards of carry. And then we got beat on a couple of big passes in the second half where they got behind our young coverage.
And then we'll talk a little bit about this as well. Coach, you guys have a knack for getting the weirdest, quirkiest delays in some of these games that I've ever seen. The second year in a row that week number 2, you get a delay. This time the lights just go out middle of the second quarter, and you just never know how that might have changed the ball game.
Well, you don't know. The hope for us was there was 6 minutes to go and we could finish that half. And, obviously both coaches have to agree with that. They wanted to wait it out, and they wound up scoring on the drive, which was huge. But, it reminded me of high school football. High school football, you might go to stadiums and the lights will go out and you might have to play an entire game with a dark end zone. But fortunately, they came back on.
Well, the Tigers dropped to 0-2 on the young season, but a familiar place, Coach. This was somewhere, and not to compare the two teams, but this is somewhere that you guys have been. Last year, you reeled off 8 straight at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before. We are big on it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And, it's a little tough for us when you come in to get ready for the season with the numbers, try to get ready in a 2-3 week term. So we kind of focus on the growing of the team. Now, it's a little different if we had to play a in-conference game early, but fortunately we don't play that until later on in the season. So we start slow sometimes. We were 1-2, I think, 2 years ago. We were 0-2 last year, and the difference is those years we turned it around and was able to capitalize and grow the team. Hopefully, we'll do that this year. We don't know yet, but I feel good about this squad. I think we made great improvement from 1 to 2. Now we just have to continue to fix those things, and against some very good teams coming up.
Perry Thomas and the Tigers finally get their home schedule underway this Saturday night. They'll take on Union College at Finley Stadium. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff. You can catch the game on the Campbellsville University Sports Network, both FM and TV. We'll step away, come back, and take a look at the highlights from that ball game with Pikeville this past Thursday night here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Excellence.
Nurturing.
Rooted. diversity.
Experience personal, academic, and spiritual growth at Campbellsville University.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Perry Thomas Show. Matt Payton back with you as we visit with the head coach of the Fighting Tigers, Perry Thomas, and we kind of recap and look at some of the highlights, coach, of that ball game with Pikeville this past weekend. Again, Campbellsville comes up short. You had a quick start early, another big kickoff return. This time it was Keanu Young that kind of gets things going right out of the gate with a big return, and unfortunately just couldn't capitalize early.
Yeah, I think our kicking game first 2 games has been pretty sound for us. The guys have done a tremendous job. We've been able to open up some lanes and get some returns, kick some field goals, consistent on our extra points. So really pleased with that. But once again, we didn't capitalize, and we got to get points when we can. We move the ball and get in scoring range. We got to be able to get the ball in the end zone and not just settle with field goals either, but also get TDs.
And I know Coach Cantwell talked last week about Keanu and Kendon blocking for one another. Right. Kendon got a decent little block there to kind of help spring Keanu on that opening kickoff. Yeah,
that's a good combination for us back there. Now, I thought we just executed better this game. Once again, we still have shortcomings we got to fix, but I thought our timing was better in our passing game. I thought our running game was much improved, and we was able to move the ball with some consistency throughout the game.
First score of the game, Hunter Brown to Tyus Alcorn, coach. A tight little window, but you can see the arm strength there from Hunter Brown.
Yeah, and it's good to get Tyus back in the end zone. He's a big play guy for us. I think he had 19 touchdowns last year, so hopefully we'll get him going now.
And then what kind of became a theme here early, Pikeville, on their first kickoff return of the ball game, they get a long return as well to set themselves up with good field position here early before you have a couple guys track that down from behind. Tyler Carpenter, Bradley Bates, I think also gets in on the action a bit.
Yeah, they got some good skill guys, and they do a good job. And I thought that we were feisty on defense. We got in there and competed with that group. They made some plays on us, obviously, but we was able to get after them and even got some takeaways throughout the game that really helped us a lot, gave us a chance.
You did have 2 fumble recoveries, 2 fumbles forced, 2 fumble recoveries there in the ball game here. Jamar Kirksey, the first score of the game for U Pike, is a little counter play, it looked like, back to the left side of the offensive line, and that knots the game up. Then again, another return for Campbellsville. It's Keanu Young once again and gets you guys out near midfield for the second time.
Right. Once again, we execute and we drive it down, and I think we have to get down there and settle for a field goal. And we got to get those touchdowns. We need those points. Those are big. Get a big takeaway right there. We was really close to a scoop and score here. The Salin wasn't going to let Carpenter scoop it. He was going to get him a fumble recovery, but that's a big play for us.
Yeah, and for those following along on radio, Salin basically dives right at the time Tyler Carpenter gets there to pick it up, and as Coach said, maybe a scoop and score opportunity. Yeah. Then Pikeville, Coach, they start to find some things with the passing game here in this portion of the ball game. You do get another fumble recovery, however, coming up. Lane Stagnolia again in on the action, I believe, for this fumble recovery, as well as McCants gets a hand on the football, it looked like.
Yeah, we swarm the ball, and one of our goals on defense is 3 takeaways a game, and we're not hitting that, but we're right there at it. So we're getting takeaways is huge for us. It gives us a chance.
You talked about the running game. Wade Holtzclaw and Chance Goodman. It looked like a great 1-2 punch. They were both very involved in the game plan this week, and they both produced good numbers for their opportunities.
Yeah, they had a much better game than what we had the first game. Neither one of them played real well the first game, but they both responded this game and made some plays. And I thought Hunter Brown did a good job. He showed a great deal of poise. One of the things people were concerned about, we was never concerned about his arm strength. We just wondered how he would handle the game and manage the game. And I thought he did a great job of managing. Once again, though, we have to settle for a field goal. And this is, it's great to get those points, and sometimes that comes out to be the difference in the game. But right now we need to get in the end zone.
13-7 your score. And I think right about this time maybe when that little light delay hits, and here's, Coach, an opportunity for a big loss, and give credit to U Pike. They kind of turned something into nothing here, even though they run about 20 yards or 30 yards.
But I was really proud of our team. We missed some tackles on that play against a good athlete, but our guys swarmed, and we was able to come up with a big play, and that was a big third down right there, and we just broke coverage. We was in man coverage, and we lost the guy, which, that happens, and it was just gave him a big first down. Again,
just continuing to go through these highlights for those following along on WLCU FM 88.7 The Tiger, Chance Goodman, a nice little run there, Coach. And you can see the quickness that Chance has. He's kind of got that jitterbug to him, but he's also not afraid to lower his head and stick his nose in there.
Well, he's a tough guy. Both he and Wade are tough runners, and once they get their timing going, they're going to be a dandy for us back there.
Hunter Brown drops back there, finds Tyus Alcorn yet again, and Tyus, one touchdown in the ballgame, like you said, getting him going. But Jacob Lamb comes back, Coach, for you guys this week, and he made his presence felt in this ballgame with those 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's a drive for us that kind of got away right there. We throw the pick in the end zone late. Hunter did a great job of getting people to miss him. He just threw it a little late, and they're able to come back and execute. And I think this is right before the half when they may score on this drive, actually.
That last drive before the half, we talked about it a bit off the air, Coach. They actually had a 3rd and 20 right there, and they kind of just throw up that one-on-one, kind of a prayer thing at 3rd and 20, and it actually hits for them. And then they come back and get somewhat of a questionable touchdown right before the end.
Yeah, right there. We just need another half a second. We get a sack, and the young corner didn't have bad coverage. He just needed to be inside the guy. And defensively though, I thought we stood up down there on the one and competed with them. And then right here we get what we think is down. You can see the guard pulling them in, and they get the touchdown right there, and that's disappointing, but that's the way it goes.
Again, a tight game throughout. U-Pike ends up, they do open it up to a 2-score ball game, Coach, but you had the ball back with a chance to tie. And, at some points in these games, that's really all you can ask for late is an opportunity to tie or maybe take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, you want to give yourself a chance, and especially this time of the year where you're still trying to find yourself offensively and defensively, still trying to get guys to mature a little bit, and you just want to give yourself an opportunity. And we've done that 2 weeks in a row. Now, at some point, we got to start capitalizing and getting it done. We can't leave touchdowns on the field. We can't give up the 2 or 3 big touchdowns we gave up in this game, and we got to start capitalizing. But you can see our offense comes back fighting, Tyus with the big play, Hunter with the big throw. Wade sticks it up in there. The offensive line's coming off the ball. We're moving people. So our guys are showing grit. It's not one of those things where it's our heart and our effort. It's so great to have Jacob back because he's a man among boys, and he's just really good, and it gives us 2 bookends with him and Tyus in there. Now Zarek can get back in the slot a little bit more, and we can get into our game stuff a little bit better.
Well, you talk about Jacob being back, and I know that matchup was one that you and Coach Garrison and the guys must have really liked because Jake ended up with 3 touchdowns. You had a 6'4" receiver on a 5'8" corner, and that's just one of those things where quarterback and receiver kind of lick their chops.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you got to take advantage of. It's kind of like right now people trying to take advantage of our youth a little bit and our young corners, and you can see right there you slant on a young corner, and we got to take advantage of those opportunities. A big play right there, just not a wise decision. It tries to throw across our body, so we throw the pick.
And then U-Pike again, it's Kirksey coming around the outside, cut off Manning, Elmer Barron, McCann, some of those Carpenters, some of those young guys that you've got. Coach, you can see the potential and where they're going to get to. It's just going to take a little bit, like you've said.
Yeah, I mean, we're making some plays, and I thought, like, other than one play, we held that running back in great form. I mean, we held his yards down. He just had that one long run that padded his yard stats. But we're making plays. The offense is still battling, and I mean, we're there. We're giving ourselves an opportunity to win this football game.
Well, talk me through the standpoint of a coach, and obviously you want to be in every game, but are there more questions, less questions when you're right there? Is it more what ifs, this, that, and the other? Is it, you kind of play mind games with yourself in these situations?
Sometimes it's a situation where you can figure it out pretty quickly, and you know why you're losing, and then other times is, you don't know. But with us being close in these first 2 games, we see, number one, we see the touchdowns we're leaving on the field. We dropped 2 touchdowns in both games, and those are points that you got to get. We've had to kick short field goals, and those are areas where we got to get 6s, and 7 points. So we see the potential there to finish. We just have to finish. Now, what we have to concern ourselves is why we're not finishing it, or why did we give up those big plays on defense in the second half? And those are the things that are a little harder to fix. So, we have the corrections, though, and part of it is maturity, and then part of it is just fundamentals. We pride ourselves on alignment, assignments and attacking people and swarming the football or scoring. And we have to, when we look at everything we do in practice and how we prepare for games, those are the 4 areas we look at. Well, right now we're deficient in all of them. We're not lining up right sometimes. We're not attacking properly. And when I say attacking, I'm not talking about hitting people hard. I'm talking about the proper fits, the proper pad placement, proper steps. And then we're not executing our assignments. We correct those things, we win ball games. So even against the good teams that we'll play, if we can correct those things, I think we'll have a chance to win our ball games. Now, at some point, we may play someone that's just that much better than us, but I don't think that's the case the first 2 games. I think those teams are very good, but I think we could have won the games also.
All right, well, we'll let the coach take a quick breather. We'll get Will Snyder, the recruiting coordinator, also the defensive back coach, in for Campbellsville. We'll talk to him in just a few minutes, and then we'll bring the head coach, Perry Thomas, back later to get his thoughts on this upcoming ball game with Union here on the Perry Thomas Show.
A champion doesn't get days off. It takes determination and drive to realize goals. From long nights to early mornings. From the courts to the classrooms to online. At Campbellsville University, this is why we play. This is how we learn. This is where champions are made. Find your calling for a life change at campbellsville.edu.
Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show. Matt Payton with you as we visit now with the defensive backs coach, also the recruiting coordinator for the Tigers, Coach Will Snyder. Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes. I know it's a busy week prepping for this first home game, but we're glad to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
A lot of changes have taken place in the last year. You come in and they kind of throw you right into the fire. I actually gave Josh Dean credit for being the recruiting coordinator earlier in the year, so we want to correct that. But recruiting coordinator, let's talk about that first. A new role. You're still getting acclimated to Campbellsville, I'm sure, in some ways. How's that process gone for you here in the early going?
Oh, it's a fun process. I love recruiting, to be honest with you. Love building relationships, and that's part of the business when it comes to recruiting is building relationships with these young men and giving them an opportunity to come to Campbellsville and see Campbellsville and see what we're all about, as far as what we teach, what we preach, our philosophies and things like that. So it's going really well. It's definitely going well. I'm loving the new role. Obviously there's more work to do, but hey, it's part of it and I love it. So.
And most people may associate this with big-time college football. There's no private jets and Friday night football games and all that stuff to make these quick recruiting trips, right?
Nope, not at all.
So basically, you guys get in a room and you break this down into areas just to kind of to clue everybody in. Certain coaches will take certain parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio. Mm-hmm. You're going to dip on down into Georgia and Florida as well. You may focus some guys on the West Coast. Talk to me just a little bit about that.
Well, obviously, we're going to hit Kentucky a lot. And that's one of our big goals is we want to have a lot of Kentucky kids, because it's nice to, first of all, it's nice to win with local talent. Second of all, it's just easier for those guys to transition. When we've had a lot of success in Georgia and Florida, obviously, and we'll stay in those hotbeds and really focus on those guys too, to go out and do different things. We do break it down into those regions that you're talking about and things like that. And, our coaches do a great job, of really hitting that stuff full force and hitting those kids and making sure we're getting the right kids, because that's part of recruiting and it's part of what we do is we want to have the right kid in our program. We don't want somebody who doesn't want to be here. We want to have those kids that want to be here and that are going to buy into what we're going to do. With guts and fundamentals being our philosophy, we've got to have guys that are gritty, a lot like the team you're seeing right now, and then we've got to have guys that are fundamental, and when I say fundamental, I mean guys that are being coachable. Coachability is one of the biggest things that you will find, so those are the types of things that we look at and what we look for in our kids. And what we've really taken a lot of pride in. We had a great recruiting class this year, doing a lot of good things. offense and defense, and obviously special teams as well. All three of those phases are being touched by our recruiting class, which is awesome. Obviously you want some more experience back there and things like that, but that's the game. That's what happens week in and week out in college football, is another guy rises to the challenge and we go. So, I mean, there's definitely we're definitely looking to the positive side of things, and things are going really well for us.
Well, the positive there, you talked about it, recruiting some of those young guys, but you're recruiting guys that can step in and play when you need them.
Yes.
and play pretty well. Your position, secondary, very young. It's an extremely young position right now,
Yep.
but you've got some really talented guys, and you can see that when you watch. It's just a matter of, as Coach Thomas talks about, those growing pains a little bit. Give me your assessment and overview of the corners and safeties here at the university.
Obviously, it's different than last year. So we have an entirely new secondary. We've got 1, 2, 3 kids that have some sort of game experience for us. So with that being said, obviously on those outsides, we're gonna take our shots. But that doesn't mean that they don't do it the right way. And that's the big thing going into Union this week, is that we are fundamental in what we're doing. And, guts isn't a problem. We've talked about that as a staff. Guts isn't our problem. We've got to play with guts and fundamentals. So once we get those things squared away, we're going to be a good football team. And even though we're young, we're still going to be a good football team. It's a lot of fun coaching those guys. They fly around with a lot of energy. Kyle Williams, obviously, Rontez Mitchell, both sophomores, but still new to that position, playing the fast-paced style. Then you've got Tyreek Frazier, and then Isaiah Smith, both freshmen, true freshmen playing. So, I mean, we've got a lot of growing pains that we're going to get through, and the guys are responding well. They're doing a good job. They're being coachable, and they've taken it seriously.
Some guys a little more long in the tooth of that safety with Keith Foster, Justin Ramos, and Tylen Bias, the guys that have played a little bit that have some of that experience.
Yeah, and they've done a great job too. It's nice to have some experience, and at that safety spot is where you'd like to have experience too. And so with having Keith back there, who's done a great job leading, had a good offseason, came back ready to go. Tylen and Ramos both doing the same things. So when they fall into place, when things start clicking, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun to see and fun to watch.
Well, Coach, as we get set for this matchup with Union, give me your thoughts real quickly on this matchup with the Bulldogs.
Just as talented as Pikeville. That's the biggest thing. I mean, they're very skilled, as Coach Thomas was saying earlier this week in our staff meeting. They're very skilled on those outsides. So we're going to see a lot of the same things that we saw with Pikeville. So we've got our work cut out for us. We can't give up the big play. That's the biggest thing that our secondary can't do, is we can't give up the big play. And those guys are rising to the challenge. There was a new focus at practice yesterday. They were focused. They're always focused, but yesterday you could see the focus. The guys are going to buy in. They've bought into what we're doing, and we're just going forward. Keep moving forward. That's what we do.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes this week, and best of luck to you against Union.
Appreciate it.
Coach Will Snyder, defensive backs and recruiting coordinator here at Campbellsville University. We'll step away, come back, and get the head coach back in and have his thoughts on the matchup with Union here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Excellence.
Nurturing.
Rooted.
Diversity.
Experience personal, academic, and spiritual growth at Campbellsville University.
Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show. Matt Payton with you as we welcome the head coach back in to get his thoughts on this upcoming ball game with Union College. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff Saturday night under the lights at Finley Stadium, Coach, and it's a long time. It's good to finally have that home game here on the schedule in game week.
Yeah, it's great to be home. It'd be good for our young guys to get in front of a loving crowd, instead of a hostile environment. And, so it's great to be home. It's good for our fans to get out and see us. And hopefully they haven't given up on us and they'll show up in force and be loud and have a good time.
You guys went to Barberville last year at the same point, 0-2. You got a big win that you needed down there. It really sparked something for you guys. And talk to me a little bit about kind of what this game means in terms of, the long-term goal.
Well, at some point you have to start winning. You can't just continue to improve. You can't just continue to think that one day you're going to get there. At some point you have to go out and get the victory. And I think that's where we're at now. We're going up against a very, very good football team. Much better than they were at this point last year. They remind you a lot of Pike, run the same type of stuff, big, strong, fast in the skill positions. So, we're going to have our work cut out for us, but at some point we got to make some corrections. And they don't have to all be fixed, but we have to make enough to get those victories. And, we need to start this week.
Offensively, they're going to do some of the same things like you mentioned that Pike will do. That should really bode well for your guys being able to see that same type of offense 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll help us, those young DBs, to get the same type of picture. The linebackers will have a picture of the zone type of stuff. They run their stuff a little different, tighter splits by the O-line, and the running backs will do a little more cutting, but same type of stuff, same type of athletes. So I think that'll help us.
On the other side of the ball, obviously Coach Garrison, Coach Cantwell and company, they're doing their game planning throughout the week. But as you sit in on those meetings and things, what do you see, what are some things that you guys can look to do on the offensive side?
Well, once again, I think it's like last week when we talked, is right now the focus has to be on us and not so much on that opponent yet. They're big and strong on defense, and they're very athletic, much like Pike was. But I think that the difference in the games has to be us correcting our mistakes and continuing to grow. We have to improve our organization, our processes on offense, where we're getting our sub patterns properly, getting our play calling organized with the players on the field where they're getting the calls. And then we have to execute. Same thing on defense. We have to execute. We're just not at a point where we can focus on union. And I know people say, well, coach, that's just coaches talk, but it's very true. We'll have game plan stuff in, don't get me wrong, but our focus has to be on us correcting those mistakes, because if you look back at it, and you've been at both games, we correct a few mistakes, we're 2-0. It's not like we're going out there getting thumped 41-14. We're 2-0 if we correct a few mistakes against two very good teams. So we have to continue to focus on us, and that'll be the grind, until we get to Faulkner, and hopefully at that point we'll be ready to focus on our opponent a little bit more. But we have to grow ourselves up first.
Well, Coach, and the Tigers take the field. I know you love those night games, and here you get one at home. So good luck to you this week.
Well, thank you. We're excited to be home.
Coach Thomas and the Tigers take the field 7 p.m. Saturday night against Union College. You can catch the game on the Campbellsville University Sports Network, television, FM, and also internet streams are available. Thanks to Will Snyder for stopping by this week, and the head coach as well. We'll see you next week on the Perry Thomas Show.